Last season saw top-tier racers making the dash for cash and the competition got intense. This season, the driver's mindset will have to be switched around. There's a championship now. The long game has to be taken into account. Who will be able to be fast and consistent? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round one of the Racing Edge Esports Championship. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman and Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Appropriately for a series flush with real-world IMSA drivers, we begin the season at Daytona. For any viewers new to sports car racing that don't know about this legendary road course, we have a handy guide to show you around. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 turns spread among 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. You can see, even though we saw some of the daytime shots here, we've shut the lights down on the sun and turned the lights on the course because we're going to be racing at nighttime. And Sam, it's very appropriate for a track like Daytona, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, daytime would be appropriate too, Drew. You know, the most famous sports car race that happens here goes from day to day to day again. But here we are, it's nighttime. It's quite cool track temperature, only 66 degrees in the racetrack right now. 12 turns around this 3.5 mile, 5.7 kilometer circuit, and we are going to be doing a 40-minute race today, which means that the fastest cars will be getting about 24 laps in here in total, and that will be coming with a pit stop. So, yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. A bit of a sprint race feel to a race around the Daytona road course, which that'll be fun because normally endurance races are crazy enough here to start with.
They really are. Expect that some drivers could still wind up in trouble around here. But speaking of that race, Peter, I believe you've got the details for this event. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is the first race in a new season for the Racing Edge series. So really looking forward to it. We're actually going to see two different types of car: a 911 RSR GTE car and a Porsche Cayman GT4 as well, as you can now see on screen. As Sam said, 40-minute races and, most importantly, cash prizes for the podium. So our GTE drivers will compete for $125 to win, and our GT4 drivers will be given $70 for the win. Now, the way that the classes are split up, if you're in the GTE Porsche 991 RSR, that means that you're in the Pro class, which means that your I rating is over 1800. For the GT4s, they are the AM class, which is below 1800, which personally I think is a good idea. Second of all, we'll also have a fixed setup, so every car is absolutely identical. So no excuses for those on setup.
Very much so. And they do have a championship, as I mentioned. And that championship goes for these 8 rounds. And then they go to a ninth round where they're going to be awarding cash prizes as well to the champion of each class, essentially. So there's plenty of money to be won by these drivers. And if you're wondering how they score that, it's going to be essentially F1 style points with 25 for a win. And it goes to the top 10. Considering we've got about roughly 18 cars in each class, you've got a good chance of scoring points, but you certainly want to be consistent and up at the front. We're watching our provisional pole sitter right now, Kaden Bean, up at the top of those GTE cars, the faster Porsches. And Michael Morley is currently leading the way in the GT4s as well, up on that provisional pole. But interestingly, Sam, they only get 2 laps to set a quick one here. So the pressure's on to try and perform here in qualifying.
Yeah, and of course on iRacing, the thing you've really got to be careful about during qualifying normally is running off course. If you run off course, you get what they call 1x, or 1 incident point, and that will discredit your qualifying time. So of course, when you're limited to just 2 qualifying laps, you've got to keep it on the racetrack. That being said, that's not too difficult to do here at Daytona. The problem these drivers have in qualifying at Daytona is there's really only 4 or 5 braking points on the circuit where you have a chance to make up time or to lose time. So you've got to make sure that you nail all of those on both of your laps.
Watching a few of the drivers continue to put laps in. Nicholas Latifi, and yes, that is the Nick Latifi that drives for Williams, has managed to put himself up to 9th with his first timed lap. Steinhausen, looks like as he comes around, didn't quite see if he made an improvement. Pipers did. He goes up to 9th here. So car number 13 manages to find his way a little bit up the order. Watching Sheriff now as he comes through the tri-oval. Not quicker, so he's going to stay in 3rd. Still on the 2nd row in the GT4s. That is not too shabby. Looks like Morley's going to abandon his 2nd lap. So either he's comfortable with his pole time or he did not think he could improve. So we switch over to Sydney Nye now.
Yeah, despite our reservations there about how qualifying would end up in the GT in the classes, I'll tell you in the GT4 class, it's actually quite consistent with what we expected. The top 4, so the front 2 rows for GT4 of Morley, Fellows, Sheriff, and McKevitt are the same as where they were in practice. So those drivers hopefully shouldn't have to fight too much traffic, and we'll see a good race between them.
That was Bailey not able to go quicker that time through. Mike Mills is just starting his first time lap from what I'm seeing because he does not have a time on the board. That's quite interesting. Ted Bradbury, who's the only driver to not put a time in here in the GTE class. He is coming through in his number 15. And he's going to put one down. No, he won't. Both laps, he had an off track somewhere. So Bradbury, is going to be starting at the back of his class and has a lot of work to do. So we see Thomas Cope coming through now. I'm watching a few of the drivers continue around to put practice laps in. Steven Sheriff, who's done, is up in 3rd and has no laps left that he can try and put a time down. What about Tae Kim, who's on his 2nd lap? He's sitting in 12th in the GTEs. He comes down to cross. About 3/10 quicker. That's a good improvement, and that's actually going to get him into the top 10 with 9th place.
Some of the pace shown by these drivers already is absolutely blistering. Caden Byrne with a 142.5. That is seriously fast here around this Daytona International Speedway road course. Just want to give a shout out to Wayne Rayner, who was due to be in the GT4 class, but sadly had to be taken into hospital over the weekend. But good news, he's back out and recovering. So just want to give a big shout out to Wayne. I'm sure he'll be watching the stream, and wish you a speedy recovery.
Looks like Exton's one and only timed lap is going to put him 19th in that GT4 class, so he's a little bit off the pace. Mills comes around, sets one, and he's not got enough time to do another. So that 155, that's actually good enough for 11th. That's solidly into the mid-pack for the number 115. This is Thomas Cope that we see on screen. He's in 4th. Very good pace on the outside of row 2. And this lap will count as long as he did not have an off track here. Looking, speaking of being at Daytona, looking very Jeff Gordon here with that paint scheme. As the number 64 comes down to the line. Can he get onto the front row? It's a quicker lap by about a 10th, but it's not going to be enough. He stays in 4th place. Tay Kim's already had his 2 laps, so that's going to be everybody. Our grid is now set here for our first round in the Racing Edge Esports Championship. It is going to be Caden Bean who will be starting on the pole with Nicholas Verone in 2nd place. Giuliano Romagnolo, he showed fast last season. He's fast in qualifying once again with P3. Carlos Cantu will be starting in 4th with Nick Del Campo in P5. We've got Alexander Davidson starting in the 6th position with Alex Ellis in 7th. Then it's Daniel Morad starting in P8. It'll be 9th for Tay Kim. And Peter, it looks like Nick Rowland rounds out our top 10. What's the rest of the GTEs look like?
Well, only 0.6 of a second separating the top 11. Absolutely fantastic. So on row 6, it'll be Gillian Peepers alongside our Formula 1 driver, Nick Latifi, in 12th in the 4 car. On row 7 will be Jonas Hillert and Stefan Jeffrey. On row 8 will be Mark Alguero and Jose Manuel Balbiani. And Jose Manuel has a very interesting livery. He actually has an Aston Martin racing livery on that car. On row 9 will be Alex Federico and James JJ Ross. And row 10 will be the first of our GT4 runners with Michael Morley. And, I've just lost the second one, my apologies there. Row 11 will be Stephen Sheriff, and beside him, Thomas Cope.
Yeah, I think what's actually causing some confusion there, Ted Bradbury didn't put a time in GT3. He will be able to start ahead of the GT4 cars. So, as you mentioned, Michael Morley is on pole in GT4. Behind him is Sam Fellows and Stephen Sheriff. Thomas Cope and Colin McKevitt will start 4th and 5th in the GT4 class, ahead of Phil Schrader and Jeremy Steinhausen. Christopher Bailey will start 8th in class, ahead of Michael Broomhead and Sydney Nye. And then we have Mike Mills and Connor Crichton. Reggie Robertson also there, ahead of Adolfo Perez. And then we've got Zlad Dersic ahead of Michael Ogren. And now we've got a few cars who didn't turn times at the bottom of the screen here.
Brian Zinn follows that with Charles Bochelle and Frederico Fernandez and Jacob Exton, the last 2 to put times in, as you mentioned. Bradbury will be gridded with his class, thankfully, and Rick Wall and Mitch Davis will be gridded at the tail of the field, although I do not see Rick Wall out there at the moment. I believe he will have to start from pit lane if he does the race. If you want to get a hold of Racing Edge, you can check out their social media. They're listed on the screen, both on Facebook and Instagram. Big thanks to our promoter. If you want to put your racing skills to the test on the track, visit racingedge.com and check out the latest listings for race cars and classic cars. From super quick McLarens to vintage Ferraris, racingedge.com will cater for your needs. Want to learn more about how to get into motor racing? Visit racingedge.com/media for more. So, We are getting ready to take the green, and it is going to be our pole sitter, Caden Bean, who will have control once the Porsche pace car peels in. There it goes. Green flag is out, and Bean is off. It's a good jump here coming through the tri-oval, but they'll be narrowing down into turn one. Things slow up into this corner and often causes trouble at the starts. Ooh, we already got a spinner on the outside.
Yeah.
That is Alex Ellis.
Yeah, and at the GT4 start, right before they even got the green, Jeremy Steinhausen got turned in the middle of the field. There's lots of carnage in the GT4 field before they even get to the first corner.
The car spun around.
GTE is the top guy. They all seem to have got through the West Horseshoe quite well. They're now just heading through the kink, a really tricky corner when the tyres are cold. No problem when they're up to temperature, but can be a little bit of a tightrope walk as they go through the kink and coming through the International Horseshoe now.
Yeah, the Western Horseshoe, the second one here that then leads up into turn 6 and back onto the oval. Caden still leading Nicholas Verone. And Nick is trying to keep a good touch, knowing that slipstream could help him out here on the oval portion. We look back at our leaders now on the GT4s. That's Sam Fellows still leading the way. Morley giving chase on him. And Thomas Cope not too far behind. Everybody starts to pick up speed on the banking.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they let Sam Fellows hold that lead down in GT4, Joe, because he actually went, I believe, before Michael Morley. Pretty much had him beat before the start-finish line, even though Morley had the pole. So we'll let them see if they keep that order. But yeah, all kinds of a bit of chaos for the GT4 start. And Michael Morley's actually off in the inner loop. He gets back on track, but still, a lot of exciting action going on at the front end of the GT4 field.
Sam Fellows
Verone
looks missed out a little bit. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Sorry, my apologies, Joe. Verone looking really, really racy here in the 25 car. The 19-year-old Argentinian who raced in British Formula 3 last year, and he is really putting the pressure under Caden Bean. He actually coming into the bus stop, the fast chicane on the actual NASCAR oval. He was really actually pressuring Bean on the brakes, but actually that compromised his exit. But this is a great battle at the front of GTE.
Riding on board with Nick as they come into the Western Horseshoe one more time. Starting to get a little bit of a three-car breakaway. Roman Yolo is just behind them off screen. And behind them, it's a multiple car length gap to Alexander Davidson just off the podium. If anything, you catch little glances of him. He's dealing with a blinking car of Carlos Cantu, who's having some internet connection problems, and that is not good news with a car that you could be battling close with.
Yeah, when you get a blinking car, there is nothing worse and nothing more off-putting. And of course, it's a little bit like people who snore, actually, because you don't know you're doing it. So you can be the offender, and that can be the problem sometimes.
We're checking back on Morley now, who's fallen back to fourth place. It's Thomas Cope just ahead of us in that number 64 here, Sam. And let's see how powerful the slipstream is here with these GT4 cars.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Morley is in a hurry to try and get back up front there. So here he goes. He's going to try and make a move for Cope. He made a bit of a mistake in the inner loop last lap. He may have even got a slowdown as well. He might get another one there because once again, he's all over the place in the inner loop. And I think he'll get another slowdown for that. So things going horribly for Michael Morley right now as Sam Fellows and Colin Mekovic and Thomas Cope are your top three in GT4.
Going up to the top of the GTEs once again. Verone was reeling in Bean quite heavily. And Peter, it seemed like he's just kind of playing patient because he didn't seem too interested in making a move down in turn one.
Well, Verone definitely has the pace, but I think he's maybe getting a little bit impatient perhaps because when you come here at Daytona, the bus stop is such an important section, and you know we were highlighting it pre-race that it's a really easy spot to get into trouble. And in the Rolex 24-hour here at Daytona, we often see a lot of trouble there. So I think Verone just maybe overdriving slightly, but he's definitely got pace in that 911 RSR.
Alex Ellis with some issues coming out of the International Horseshoe. This is going to be a self-spin. Looks like he just touches the grass. Let's watch. Ooh, yep. 2 wheels off and the green stuff is not going to give you the best of run off that corner. Fortunately, looks like he may have taken
Nice.
a tow already off from that.
Yeah, it's nice having that large infield to kind of skid off there. We've got battle on screen coming on down here into the first corner. I'll let you guys call that. I'm keeping an eye on the battle for third in GT3 because in GT4 rather, because Michael Morley's still trying to make his way back up.
Verone looking around the outside as they come down into turn 1, but it's not quite enough. Still looking for the over-under. Is Bean going to defend to the International Horseshoe? No, he leaves the door open, and so Verone's going to try and step through. He gets his foot through the threshold, but he can't quite complete it. They're going to be side by side off the corner here through the infield, and it looks like a better exit will keep Caden up in front.
I think there was contact there, just a very slight contact. It'd be interesting to get a replay perhaps, but very, very slight brush between those two cars. Caden Bean doing a great job to keep Verone behind him because he clearly has the pace in that car. Remember, he was the winner in the last race of the season at Suzuka.
Got a battle down here between Morley here, Sam.
Yeah, and he's going to try and look for the outside on Thomas Cope. He keeps it on track this time, though. He was being patient. He didn't try and make a move in the inner loop this time that hadn't worked for him the last 2 laps. So he tried to make a move in turn 1 instead, and very late on the brakes and hit from behind. And that's going to turn Michael Morley around, and he tries to get back on track in front of oncoming traffic. So more contact there. Michael Morley cannot catch a break in the opening laps of this race.
Yeah, this was Mills who gets turned around. That's Mills in the black car. And then watch Broomhead in the purple machine just barely get hit. Excuse me, that was Morley, rather, that gets turned around. He returns in 7th place, keeps running, so apparently there wasn't too much damage.
Verone having another look. He's trying every possible line. The braking zone into turn 1 here at Daytona is one of the most difficult braking zones anywhere in the world. But Verone is looking really frustrated behind the wheel of that 911 RSR. But Bean keeping it nice and steady. And crucially, what's keeping Bean ahead is the bus stop. He's definitely better than Verone and taking that smoother than Verone through the bus stop. And that is keeping him ahead in this race.
We've got a good battle happening for 4th place. Cantu, Davidson, Piper, Morad, all involved in this. Take him had a bit of a problem getting off the corner as well. Lost some positions in there. As we jump back, this is in the GT4s that we're looking at. This battle in the GT4s is here between Broomhead as well as Schrader, and Schrader's going to have the inside down into turn 1.
Morley making up a spot. Let's see if he can get by Phil Schrader as he continues to try and... he hasn't completely lost this race yet. He can still get a podium out of this, but he knows that it's a 40-minute race and he's got to make moves now. And this time it looks like things are going to go his way, and he's able to make a move, stick on Schrader.
Broomhead with a little bit of wheel spin coming off of there, though, so he falls back. As we look into the headlights of Schrader coming through the kink. They're going to start getting more and more traffic, I believe, because our leaders who are actually side by side right now, once again, Peter, Caden Bean is just not going to give away that inside line.
No, he's been absolutely flawless so far, has not missed an apex once, because if he had, Nicholas Verone would have picked his pocket. But all of this battling, and actually, do you know what's amazing? Caden Bean's been able to defend without really compromising his pace, but it has ever so slightly, and do you know what that has done? It's allowed the white and red car, the 905 with Giuliano Romagnolo, to start to tag onto the back, and when they go up onto the banked oval sections, he's able to pick up the draft. So we've now got a 3-way battle for the lead in GTE.
We're going to watch a replay of Cantu, who lost a lot of spots here in turn 1. He had some contact. Trying to figure out who exactly this was that got him. And we come back live, we'll have to try and dissect that a little bit later because that battle's still going on. We're watching Cantu back onto the track, chasing Hillert as well as Latifi. This is for 10th position. And up ahead of them, that battle continues as well.
We've got to give a shout out to Daniel Morad. Of course, has won the very prestigious Rolex 24 at Daytona. He's currently sitting in 7th right now. And he won the race in 2017 behind the wheel of a Porsche.
As we watch from on board, Morad in 5th as he goes side by side, flashing the lights with Piper next to him. Not sure how much good that's going to do with him just beside him as they break down into turn 1. He's on the outside. Lets Piper have it as they got a spinning GT4 just to the outside. That is Sheriff.
Yeah, Sheriff had the great qualifying there, but his race has been going downhill pretty much from the get-go, unfortunately.
Our leaders have now caught traffic as well. So things are getting more complicated, especially here in the infields. Some of them are trying to get more out of the way than others.
Yeah, well managed there by all 3 of the leaders. They're really focused. You can tell, just so decisive in traffic there. That's the last thing you want, is when you're coming around the kink and you see a slower car dithering in front of you. But good job by all drivers there. And this is an amazing 3-way battle for the lead now. We're seeing Verone. He's actually trying some NASCAR side drafting, actually coming into the final parts of the Speedway section. We saw Nick Tandy doing that in this year's Rolex 24 Hour. So we'll need to see if that pays off for him eventually.
So someone's been paying attention. And Verone, who doesn't make it go...
Sorry, Joe, that's Sidney Nye. You see as they exit the bus stop here, Sidney Nye is on the grass. He's carrying a lot of damage. He completely just spinned the car into the wall, going through the inner loop.
Snapped bad. And you're right, he clattered into the tire barrier. So that's going to be severe damage. They do have a spare car waiting for them in pit lane.
Thomas Cope around from 3rd place in GT4. He's lost it coming out of turn 1, and all that oncoming traffic battling for the lead in GTE is going to be trying to come around here. Cope gets out the way of it though cleanly, so kudos to him, but he does lose third position.
This is going to be really tricky for our GTE leaders now. But Thomas Cope, as you say, Sam, making great, really good discipline and allowing the GTE. Fantastic stuff. Just to mention about that off at the bus stop there where we got big damage. An accident at the bus stop is almost a rite of passage if you race at Daytona. As we see, Verone goes onto the grass, nearly all 4 wheels on the grass there, and still manages to hold it together. Fantastic car control from the 19-year-old Argentinian.
We had another little bobble coming off of the Western Horseshoe as the car had to be caught once again. Now they come out onto the oval portion. This will make it a lot easier getting by all this slower class traffic. Schrader staying low for them, along with Christopher Bailey. This has allowed a little bit of a gap for Caden. The 27 finds himself with a little bit less than a second ahead of Verone.
Yeah, that's he's just got at the right time, but Caden Bean, he's just got behind a Cayman just coming around the bus stop there, and that's allowed Verone to catch right back up again. And I think this is the closest that we've seen anybody to Caden Bean so far. So it looks like Verone is going to be able to have a go coming into turn 1, but that notorious turn 1 is such a tricky braking zone. So this is going to be fascinating. And look at Giuliano Romagnuolo in the 905 car, but here's Verone right on the rear diffuser of Caden Bean as they come into turn 1, right on the limit of grip. Of course, no anti-lock brakes in these cars, but these are proper pro drivers and showing their credentials. Fantastic there. Very, very good racing.
And as they were going by there, Joe, some viewers may have noticed Michael Morley came in for his scheduled pit stop. He had came back up into 3rd place in GT4.
Yeah, problem with Nick Latifi as well. It looks like this happened in turn 1. A little bit of contact actually between himself and Hillert in a fight for position down in that corner. They're both going to give up multiple ones. Let's look at that one more time. Hillert is in the orange and black machine. The traditional Porsche colors there. That is Latifi. He's going to be on the high side. if there's anybody to blame for this one or if this is just a racing deal. It kind of washes out a little bit, but Latifi should know that it's a little dangerous on that outside line. They both came out for it.
Yeah, not the place to take liberties there into turn one. It's really okay, it's a sprint race, but very, very tricky indeed. Now, we're not getting far away from our pit stop. Of course, the cars have very limited fuel cells to make sure that they take their pit stop. We've had nine laps so far, so we're not going to be far, maybe 3-4 laps or so before we start seeing some pit stops.
The question is, who wants to try and duck off early and get out of some of the craziness that we're seeing out here? Another big toe for Verone. Takes a little look to the inside, goes back to the outside. Maybe an over-under on the cards here if you could try and sneak one in. Oh, but very wide behind them as Giuliano Romagnolo, in an attempt to keep up through the traffic, washes out in turn one. We ride on board with Verone down through the International Horseshoe, still unable to make anything stick.
Tell you what, if this is an appetizer for what we're going to get in the rest of the season between Bine and Verone, my goodness me, we're going to be in for a treat, because this has been fantastic racing. Bine has not put a foot wrong. Verone has been all over the back of his gearbox, but he has not flinched once. You can tell that we've got proper pro drivers driving tonight.
Certainly seems like these two are potentials for that championship. I wouldn't count out Lolo. Meanwhile, let's go look at the GT4s. All the action up at the front of the GTE, Sam. We kind of haven't really been able to go too much about this fight here.
Yeah, well, this fight for the lead of GT4s hasn't really been on yet. Sam Fellows has been holding about a 1 to 2 second lead over Colin McKevitt throughout most of the race. But yeah, Sam's got to be careful, because Colin's not too far behind him and can definitely still win this race. Obviously, most of the action, I would say, in GT4. Oh, and there goes McKevitt. Well, that's going to help out Fellows a lot.
Yeah, he actually got, was it Fellows that he got into? No, he got into the back of Take Him. We're going to see this on the replay. He did not expect the accordion here. He gets back in line. We're watching from on board. So, unfortunately, he also is another one that's going to find the tires off to the side of the bus stop imprinted in the side of his car.
Well, if I was McKevitt, I would come into the pits right now, but he's not going to do that. So I guess he doesn't have too much.
Switch over to fifth place here in the GTE cars. Oh, speaking of accordions, Morad followed by Kim and Davidson. Everybody crunching together. Thankfully, no contact made, but tight quarters here through the infield.
You know, I just realised this, Joe, and some viewers probably picked up on this probably quicker than I did, but McKevitt is still in second. Despite that spin, there's been so much drama for the third place position in GT4 that he had the spin in the bus stop and has not lost a...
So, McKevitt, maybe, I guess, thanking his lucky stars that their pace has been that good. We've had another problem in the GT4s. Adolfo Perez and Connor Crichton, unfortunately. Once again, turn one, it's been Calamity Corner, at least other than the bus stop around here today.
Well, I wonder if a track temp is leading to a lot of these issues, Joe. 66 degrees is all that's in it, and that is about as cold as it can go on iRacing. I wish the real world was like that sometimes, but I guess this is Florida.
Is indeed, and I have been there when it's this cool at night sometimes. It's not as common, as the leaders are still battling very hard. They actually split either side of Federico Fernandez down into turn one. He's just getting bowled over by a bunch of GTE cars right now, as the leaders are certainly in a hurry to try and make this their first win of the season.
Obviously, you mentioned the cold temperatures of Daytona at night. Of course, we are racing under nighttime conditions right now. Sim time of 5 to 10. I was there at the Rolex 24 in January this year, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I tell you what, the the remainder of the burning fires from the campsites in the infield were very welcome to keep my little Scottish hands warm. But it's so special. Daytona at night time, it's not really night time because the circuit is lit up so brightly. It really is a special place to go racing. Now, one mention, we're hearing that actually there's been a last minute decision for no pit stops. So without... sorry, my apologies, guys.
Yeah, sorry, Davidson made an attempt on Tay Kim, who we were riding on board with at the time, and into turn 6. It failed, unfortunately. Del Campo makes a miraculous escape. That's Del Campo in the blue car, just sneaking through on the outside. Sorry about that, Peter.
My apologies. No, my apologies. Just to make our viewers aware that we have been made aware here in the commentary box that there's been a last minute decision to go to a no pit stop race. So apologies for that, folks. Can confirm there will be no pit stops, or none planned anyway, so we're going to see a straight battle to the flag.
Back to our leaders there. Side by side right now, it had switched around. Verone had managed to get through when we weren't looking, and they're trying to switch it back. Are we going to go 3 wide with the traffic here? Someone's going to get plugged up. That's Dojsic, and Dojsic is just trying to stay out of the way of this. Now he's going to be able to get off to the side, although he slips into the grass in the process. Still wheel to wheel between the top 2 and the GTE. Caden somehow can't manage to get through despite having the inside of the International Horseshoe. He could take another stab into the Western Horseshoe, but he's covered off as Verone is just going to ferociously try and hold on to this top spot that he's worked so hard for.
Yeah, Beanie's got to do a Troy Bayliss special here. He's got to snap straight back. He cannot afford to let Verone get away because he will clear off. It's quite clear, judging by the body language of Verone's 25 car, is that he's been wanting to get past for a while. But if Bean can just upset his rhythm and perhaps get a draft and make a move down into turn 1, he can change the storyline of this race.
Greenhead's going to stay down low, let them through. He wants no part of this fight. As Bean took a little bit of a show of his nose down into the bus stop. It's a very good launch. Oh, an incredibly good launch off of the bus stop. And he won't even need the slipstream as they now hit the banking. Verone down low has the desired line, and he might be able to come back at him. In fact, he does. It's shorter distance there on the bottom side, and it's once again a drag race, Peter, down into that first corner.
Yep, that was a mistake from Verone. That bus stop is such a tricky section. And look at Verone does have the inside though, which has been the preferred line by a long way. And yes, he's able to defend, but look at Bean trying to come round the outside. He's really making it difficult for the Argentinian here. Fantastic stuff from both men.
This is just voracious. They really want the most money out of it. If they manage to finish 1 and 2, they're still going to get those cash prizes. But the ego of the racing driver always demands that you want a win regardless. Continues to stalk behind that number 25, still being covered off at every opportunity. Nick making life hard. He's all still ahead of Giuliano Romagnolo, down in third by about 2 seconds. If they keep fighting, he could still get right back into the fray. Let's check back in on what's going on with our GT4. Sam, has there been any interesting stories down there?
Well, I've just been trying to piece together the news here that, that they're not going to do pit stops, trying to work out why Michael Morley it did come in for a stop earlier on. I guess he decided that the damage he sustained in the opening laps was so bad he wanted to get it fixed. So he's running in 6th place right now, but has a fast car. I think he can still pick up a position or two before the end of this. But the other battle I want to keep an eye on is the battle for second. There's still a couple of seconds between Colin McAvitt in second and Phil Schrader in third. Obviously, with no scheduled pit stop, that means that that's why we haven't seen Colin McAvitt come into the pits after hitting the wall. He's going to go out there and ride that damage out until the end of this race. But I think it is costing him a little bit of time, and I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Schrader ends up running him down and taking second place in the not-too-distant future.
Things are getting tight with P1 and GTEs once again. Verone had to go defensive after checking up from more GT4 traffic. Caden looking on either side, weaving around, trying to find if there's some sort of opening he can take advantage of. Still no dice. He's quick here through the kink. He could maybe try and take a dive. He gets awful close to the rear bumper of that Porsche GTE, but still nothing for him.
That is an absolute dogfight coming on here between the 25 and the 27. And don't forget, these two drivers finished in this very order at the last time out in the final round of Season 1 at Suzuka, don't forget.
Different Porsche, though. They were in those GT4 cars before, but I guess you could stick them in just about anything. Oh, excuse me, they were in the Audis before, rather, I should say. As Caden, he's got to run. Does he try and risk it? It's towards the latter half of the race, but not close enough to the end that he's going to try and send it in. They're coming up on Michael Morley now, who's going to stay low out of the way, but it's another good run here from Caden Bean. And this time he does have the low side. He is ahead, and now he's clear. The 27 retakes P1.
This is
Colin,
not over.
No, it's
Go on,
not.
Sam.
But as they go on into the corner, Colin Mekovic does come in for a pit stop. So he'll be able to get that damage repaired. That will put Michael Morley back up into the top three. Michael Morley got fourth place a lap before when Thomas Cope spun, and now he gets third place from Mekovic coming into the pit.
Race down.
Verone seems to keep making. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Verone seems to keep making the same mistake coming out the bus stop. Of course, the bus stop really is a tricky exit, particularly as we see Latifi off there on the side of Schott in the 4 car. Yeah, he's really making a little bit of an error just coming out on the exit of the bus stop. As we see, oh my goodness me, that was close. It was one of the Caymans in the AM class there, just I think saw the leaders coming up and, you know, good on him trying to get out the way, but just made a little mistake and that nearly took Verone out.
It was Christopher Bailey, and we're going to watch the replay, just how tight it was. A little bit of a angle from above there. One more time, we're going to watch it. This is from the Helicam. You're going to see that gray car just start to lose the car. Oh, I don't even know if Verone knew how close that was. So we come back live. Nick is still right on the back of Caden. They come through the bus stop one more time. Once more, a pretty good exit for the 27 comparatively.
Yeah, Caden's definitely got the exit of that bus stop absolutely nailed, and I think that one exit from that one corner is what's keeping him in contention in this race, because in the infield, the 25 of Verone is absolutely electric quick. So this is just superb driving between both drivers. But I tell you what's surprising me, guys, the draft is making even more of an impact than even I thought.
Got a bit of a battle in P4 and GTE because Piper's is just getting ahead of Daniel Morad. Morad going to try and come back at him around the outside into the turn 1 corner, and it looks like he's not going to be able to do much with it. That's take him right behind them. This is a 3-way battle. They come into the International Horseshoe. Oh, outbrakes himself. No, there's a car stopped there. Piper's having to go the long way around, and that is going to hand Morad 4th place right back. Not sure who that was stopped.
It's Latifi, and he just got hit by another oncoming car.
There's Cantu.
That was, yeah, Cantu gets into him, so Latifi, his race has gone a bit to the dumps, unfortunately.
Yeah, he had a spin, and he was unfortunately stopped there for a while. Not sure if he was just trying to hold position to keep from running into anybody or what, but unfortunately found himself in a very awkward position. And there's Cantu making the contact.
And while that was all going on, Joe, Phil Schrader from 2nd place in GT4 came into the pits, and so that puts Michael Morley back up into 2nd place. And it, you know, even if our math is wrong, even if our intel is wrong, and all the GT4 drivers do have to make a scheduled pit stop, well, Michael Morley's safely in 2nd now because he already made a stop earlier.
Our leaders side by side once more, and they have more traffic, but he's going to stay out of the way. That's Brian Zinn, still wheel banging as they come through that first corner, down through the chicane, and Verone's going to come out on top. The 25 back up to the pole position.
God, the gloves really are off here. This is absolutely extraordinary action, and we actually saw coming out of the out of turn 6 after the West Horseshoe of the 27 of Caden Byrne having a really big moment and actually nearly going in kind of a half spin trying to get past the number of getting past Jose Manuel Balbiani. But even though even without that, the 27 of Caden Byrne was so fast through the bus stop, he was able to get right back on the case of Verone. So that bus stop is proving critical here in this race.
Speaking of critical, this real quick, that lap traffic that they're going by now is the last they're going to see for quite a while. So it's going to be a straight fight between the top two, Sam.
Okay, so yeah, the GT4 cars have all had to pit because Sam Fellows also pit on the previous lap, and that cost him to the lead to Michael Morley. So Michael Morley has rebounded to the top position. He's only a couple of seconds ahead of Sam Fellows, but I think Morley should have enough fuel to get to the end of the race, because remember, he came in at the end of lap 4 or so to repair some damage. So we might have a nice little showdown here in GT4 between Morley and Fellows.
Morley on screen, blasting his way back to the bus stop one more time. Interesting to note, I was keeping half an eye on the leaders as we look at these shots, and Peter, it seemed that there was almost bump drafting happening this time.
Yeah, well, they're certainly close enough for it. This is absolutely fantastic. I have to say, this sort of racing is just why we're all fans of motorsport. You've got two drivers at the absolute peak of their powers. Of course, Nicholas Verone, 19 years old. He won a race last year in British Formula 3, and we know just how competitive a series that is. He had 2 podiums as well in the Formula 3 Championship, and it's just, these are not easy cars to drive on the limit, the 911 RSR, and these two guys are just putting on a masterclass for us today. They're in a class of their own.
We're watching Pipers now, who is just behind Morad. He looked like he had a good run out of the International Horseshoe, but there is just not enough of one for him to try and take a stab down into the Western Horseshoe. He stays with it. If he gets a good enough draft, he could maybe try and get to the inside by the time they reach the bus stop. And the kind of exit he can get off of turn 6. They're on the banking now. Speaking of which, the leader's going to go side by side and doing just what I said for those other drivers. And Bean is actually going to get the position away from Nick.
Yeah, Bain's he's been absolutely exemplary through this bus stop here today, and that has been the difference. That's what's kept him in this race and been able to allow him to battle with Verone. So let's get a look at that. That is a really deep on the brakes move, but manages to get it out and not even compromise his exit much at all. That is fantastic stuff from the 27 car.
Really impressive stuff. And Verone, who is very brave on the brakes as we come back live, closes in significantly. They're going to get more traffic. It's Adolfo Perez up ahead of them. Oh, and then it does cause them to check up. A little bit of a slide. He gets into the GT4 car. And they somehow come out the other side, and it's poor Perez who gets the worst of all of it. And that battle for fourth in that same class is still on, and Piper's much better off the corner. Shallow, but finds the traction. Gilhelm now up to fourth, managing to get past Morad.
I have to say, I don't know if Caden Byrne's got away without damage there. That was a pretty decent hit with the GT4 car, so we'll need to see when they get out onto the super speedway section to see if that's compromised his speed. That would be such a pity if that's robbed us of a really good battle with 6 minutes to go.
Watching the speed now, and they look pretty comparable, so I think he got away with it. They're coming up on a slower car. This is Crichton. Crichton going to stay low. That timing actually worked out quite perfect for both of them.
Keeping a tight eye on this, and for obvious reasons, but I'll tell you, we might want to start shifting our focus to the GT4 leaders in the closing minutes, because Fellows is closing in on Morley, and I think he's going to start getting a whiff of a slipstream from this far out.
Yeah, we're watching from on board Sam now. 1.2 seconds between them. They come onto the oval, picking up speed. These are not exactly slow cars. It's already 135 miles an hour here before they reach the end of the corner. And it's coming down, and it's 0.9 between them. Fellowes feeling a little bit of that slipstream. He's got 5 minutes to get that last couple tenths and get tucked up underneath and make a move.
And let's not forget what an awful start Morley had to this race. He was being beaten around from other cars out there on the circuit. He did not get off to the best of starts, even though he started pole in the class. He made a couple of mistakes on his own, got slowed down penalties, and ran off on his own in the inner loop. So if he tidied up his act a little bit, he would be leading by several seconds right now over Fellowes. But the way things have gone, Fellowes is right on his rear wing. He's down, and we're going to have a pretty good finish here.
Yeah, fourth place swapping around once again as Pipers and Morad just going at it, almost as hard as we're seeing P1 and P2 going. Another fantastic bit of slipstream. Oh, as he ducks down underneath him, almost thought he was going to clip the car ahead, but they didn't make contact. Pipers has the desired line on the entry. Oh, almost once again coming together, and they managed to make it through, but boy, they are pulling some risky moves.
Right at the front, guys, it's a really tight battle here, and coming into the bus stop, the leaders were hampered by a couple of GT4 cars, and that allowed Verone to get by, so they're just coming in, nearly making contact, and Bean must be furious after losing out at his very favourite spot at the bus stop, but that could be critical with just a handful of minutes left as Verone takes the lead in the 25 car.
Still side by side here for fourth place. Pipers is going to be the one to come out ahead. Take him, who once again catches up with all this wheel-to-wheel racing. Just finds them as they finally settle single file, much to the relief of Morad. He doesn't want to lose 2 places here. He is losing a little touch with Pipers now as they hit the infield. Down into the western horseshoe. Nobody going to be able to do anything through there. We're keeping half an eye on this and half an eye on the GTE lead. There's so much happening in the dying stages of this race.
Both races down to a last lap pass for the.
In fact, we could be seeing that last lap pass come.
No, I think we're to go, Joe. I think they're coming to 2.
Yep, it should be, as you said, 2 to go next time by.
Morley just overshot turn 1 a little bit. That allowed Fellowes to run him down pretty much half of that distance. But
Watching from on board, and as much as I hate jumping our director around, the leaders are side by side in the GTE class right now. They come through the tri-oval, and it's Caden around the outside. Gonna try and do it the hard way. If he can make this car stick, I'll be impressed. He's just about there. He has the overlap if he wants it. No, the door's gonna be shut by Verone.
Yeah, Caden Biden doing absolutely everything he can to try and get past Verone, but do you know what? As long as he can hassle Verone through the infield, it's much more important. As long as he's on his rear bumper as he comes out of the infield section, he can then use the bus stop to his advantage, because that has really been the key to this race for Caden Biden in the 27 car. But this is going to be the grandstand finish that both these drivers deserve. This is absolutely exhilarating stuff.
More traffic in front. That Schrader and Cope, that's actually a battle for position, so they're not eager to give away too much. Cope, unfortunately, has to.
It's a battle for podium there, right? Joe. So yeah, those two are going to be right.
That's for the money. Meanwhile, as we ride on board with the 27, he's got to run. Verone's going to cover him off. He's very shallow. He moves back to the racing line as close as he can go. And as they enter the bus stop, he'll hold on for the time being. The exit is what both of them wants. They'll get the white flag this time by, and these GTE class leaders.
Yeah, and the GT4 leaders just crossed the line. The GTE leaders will not catch them, so the GT4 leaders still have 2 laps.
Take a glance at those leaders. Here they are heading into the infield section. White flag now waves for our top two, and it's another attempt from Bean to the outside into turn one. Gives it up a little bit earlier this time. Interesting.
Yeah, they got a lapped car off in the wall ahead of him. Hopefully he'll pull up.
Yeah, and they've got the slow car of Bradbury and the DHL car, the number 15. They might catch him before the end of the lap, possibly. So they'll be flashing their lights furiously, and Bradbury will be getting the blue flag, knowing that there's faster cars coming up. This would be such a shame to have this spoiled by a blue flag incident.
We just had a change for the GT4 lead. Fellows managed to get by Morley. Oh, and that's going to switch around.
Fellows right slow now. Both of those lead changes came out of nowhere. Is Fellows out of fuel?
He might be. He just said over the radio that he has run out of fuel. Oh, heartbreak for Sam Fellows as our leaders just flashed by him. So Verone and Bean working their way towards the checkered flag, and this is going to be the moment that we've been waiting for to see who can manage to make the move. Verone defends, but he needs the exit. Tucks it right up underneath him. Caden trying to go for the run, carry his momentum, and he does it well. But is he too close? And they're actually going to go by our leader. That's Morley that they are coming up upon. Oh, tries to duck down low, and they make contact. He blocks him at the last second. Verone trying to interrupt his momentum. He comes back to the outside. It's going to be a photo finish at the end. Is there enough momentum? Looking for that side draft. They actually bang doors, and it's going to be Bean. Bean takes the victory as behind them, Michael Morley wins in the GT4 class. Verone gets second. Romagnolo gets third in the GTEs. Thomas Hope is the one who comes home second in that GT4 class.
0.02 of a second, the difference between Bean and Verone at the line.
Roomhead is going to be the one, Phil Schrader, third, the last cash paying position there in the GT4s.
Joe, I'm showing all the way down to Brian Zine in, good grief, what is that, about 16th place, still on the lead lap in GT4s. I think Sam Fellows is going to drop way outside the top.
That is just an absolutely horrid finish for him, but a great finish for these two. Let's watch the replay here all the way to the checkered flag. Absolutely incredible. This is the sort of stuff we tend to expect out of NASCAR here. Banging up against one another and still remaining respectful enough that they both managed to finish and to the line just enough of speed for that red and black machine, the number 27, to inch him out, quite literally, by 0.02 of a second. That's going to wrap up our race, our opening rounds. But we have more to come here in our coverage because we have our post-race show yet to go here. So stick around because we've got the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. And on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We just watched round one of the Racing Edge Esports Championship, and it gave us one of the best finishes we've seen in a while in sports car racing here. That was just phenomenal stuff between Caden Bean and Nicholas Verone for the win, down to 2/1000ths of a second. You see it on your screen with Caden winning, Nick coming home in second. And then Giuliano Romagnolo, a little bit of a distant second place, even though at times it looked like he could get into things, but he still took some money with that third place. Gilhelm Pipers was fourth. He fought with Daniel Morad for all race long, and Morad finished fifth. By the way, Pipers started 11 up to that P4. Great effort from him. Take him with a sixth place, and Alexander Davidson finished in seventh. It was Stephen Jeffrey finishing in eighth, with Jonas Hillert in ninth, and then Carlos Cantu with not the best of races, having a little bit of contact at one point. He fell down to 10th in the end. Mark Alguero was 11th, with James Ross in 12th, Ted Bradbury 13th, Nick Del Campo 14th, and Jose Manuel Balbiani was P15. Sam, how did our GT4 field wind up?
Well, Michael Morley had enough fuel. That's what made the difference. He came home in first place ahead of Thomas Cope in second position in class. Phil Schrader rounded out that podium. Michael Broomhead finished fourth place in the GT4 field, with Jeremy Steinhausen rounding out the top five. Colin Mikovic finished in sixth place. He was doing well early on, but had a spin in the inner loop. Sidney Nye also had a spin very early on in the race. He could only come back to seventh. Similar story, unfortunately, to Stephen Sheriff, back in 23rd overall. Connor Crichton is down there, as well as Reggie Robertson and Adolfo Perez, but all these the drivers, of course, finishing top 10 in class, score points, which will be good news for them. Michael Ogren is down there, Mitch Davis, Brian Zinn, Mike Mills, and then by the time you get to this page, you'll get into a lot of drivers who had sad stories to tell, but I think that's the saddest one right there is for the number 35 of Sam Fellows.
Certainly, and looks like we've got a few people to talk to who have much better stories, starting with our GTE winner, Caden. And we've got him now with us in the booth. Caden, that was an incredible finish. How hard is your heart pumping right now?
Entire race coming out of my chest. That was an insane race all the way through.
So with you and Nicholas fighting back and forth all race long for the lead, did you know how you wanted to play the finish? Did you know if you wanted to be first or second place on the final lap? And which position did you want to be in?
I did want to be in second on the final lap because I did some testing earlier on, like in the race, by coming up next to him, and I was usually ahead by the start-finish line. But then I noticed on my relative that there were some GT4s coming up. I thought that those could play in it, which it did. But I really was not sure at that point if I wanted to be first or second, so I just kind of played it by ear.
Well, it looks like you've been able to play quite a symphony by ear there, because you've got a victory in the first round and a nice little bit of cash. Is there anybody you want to thank for this win?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Movano SimRacing for just being great ever since I joined the team, and my parents for supporting me through all this.
Fantastic stuff. Caden Bean, number 27, taking the win right at the end. And up next, we have Sam talking to our winner in the GT4s. It's Michael Morley.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's all right, Michael. We're sure you're pretty content with how that ended up, especially given the amount of drama you had on like the first four.
Man, I can't have a good start for the life of me lately. So, I just want to give a shout out to you guys at GSRC and SimRacing, Racing Edge SimRacing. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what was the biggest nuisance there at the start? Because you got beat off a start line by Sam Fellows, and then it looks like you made a couple mistakes of your own in the inner loop. You kind of overdrove that, but then also you had the car get into the back of you. Which one were you was upsetting you?
Honestly, I was just confused at the start. I thought we were gonna go when I did, but that wasn't the case. So, good job to Sam for recognizing that. As for the other things, it was just racing. I got caught up in a few things. I was checking up too much. and got caught up in that rear end incident. Yeah, I just took a pit. Hopefully, I was gonna get clean air and get draft, and hopefully get back up there. And that's what happened.
Yeah, definitely worked out well for you in the end. Well, we've got 8 more races left in the season, and judging by the pace you put on today, I don't think this is the last time we're going to talk to you in victory lane. So congrats on your win, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you at.
Thanks, Samuel. Have a good night.
That was our winner in the GT4s, and Peter Mackay has caught up with the other end of that side-by-side battle for the win in the GTs with Nico Verone.
Nico, that was absolutely exhilarating in the commentary box. I can't imagine what it was like behind the wheel. Tell us what it was like from your seat.
Hi guys, yeah, it was really difficult. I knew the race will be like decided in the last lap, in the last straight. So yeah, it was only the first lap, just like trying to pull forward with Caden, and yeah, it worked. Also passing some GT4. Yeah, I knew he would wait for the last sector. So yeah, I try to like have it really close so that that doesn't have that momentum to overtake me, and it was working really well until it was so close that yeah, he managed to overtake me by 0.002. And yeah, it's a pity for the win, but it was a fantastic race with him. I really enjoyed, so congrats to him and to all the guys that made a great race.
Yes, it certainly looked a lot of fun from where where we were standing. Now, it seemed like at Daytona, it seemed like you had an advantage in pace in the infield section, but then it was through the bus stop. You're having a couple of issues coming out of the bus stop. Would you say that would be fair?
Well, in Daytona road course, it's just you don't know who has the pace inside or in the bus stop, because you know that if you do like an average lap, then with the slipstream you can catch him, the guy in front. So everyone is like going, take it in easy and at the infield, and then having the slipstream in the straight. So it's difficult to say that.
Yeah, certainly a challenge. Before we let you go, before next week, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to thank, well, Daniel Morad and all Racing Edge for making this championship. That is really nice. Cool people, clean racing. That it's what we are what we all want. And to Ison Driver Performance, that is where I train in UK when I'm racing Formula 3. And yeah, all people that is watching.
Thanks very much for coming to join us in the commentary box, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Thank guys. See you.
So it's second place in the GTE class with Nicholas Verone. We've got second in the GT4s as well. I've caught up with Thomas Cope, who had a bit of a lonely race for some of it and has seemed a bit similar to Morley, Thomas, because was not without mistakes today.
Yeah, really struggling with the tyres on the rear end, especially coming down into T1 off the banking. Obviously, I had my spin late into the race, which was really put me back. But kept my composure for the rest of the race, and obviously brought it back to P2, which made me really happy.
I have to ask, what is the inspiration for your paint scheme? Because growing up here with American racing, it obviously my mind goes to Jeff Gordon, but I doubt that that's necessarily what you were trying to mimic. I see you've got NHS on this. Is there any particular inspiration for this?
Yeah, so obviously being from UK, NHS is our help service for all of our hospitals as such. And during all the coronavirus, they've just done such a good job. And I had a friend of mine made this on trading paints, which was really good. I really loved the look of it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to race it. It means a lot. And yeah, and looks really good. Thanks to Chris who made the skin.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be heading to Sebring for the next round and sticking around here in Florida. Have you raced there much here on iRacing, or are you looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to Sebring. It's more the car I'm not looking forward to. I really struggle with this car personally, but it's nothing I can get over. But Sebring is a great circuit, quite bumpy as well, going through the final sunset turn. So it's going to create a lot of drama, and I really personally can't wait.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of that drama over the years covering races there. Well, again, congratulations, Thomas, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more.
Yep, thank you, and I'll see you later.
Thomas Cope, second place here in the GTE or GT4s rather, and that Peter has now caught up with our third place driver in the GTEs, Giuliano Romagnolo.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Giuliano. Thanks for coming in to join us. That was a pretty hectic race from our standpoint. Tell us how it was for you.
Actually, it was super fun. I kind of took a different approach after the first lap, and the kind of chaotic mess with the GTEs was going on. After I broke free with the top two guys, Caden and Nico, it was kind of just at the point of trying to conserve my tires and staying within the draft. So I made one mistake into turn one. I lost about a second, and once that draft was broken, the guys were fast. I was keeping pace, but I wasn't able to get back in that draft. So a couple of GT4s caught me off guard in the bus stop, so I lost a little bit more time there. But what a finish! It must have been crazy for you guys to commentate that, because I had a front row seat to that basically, and it was unreal. So I'm happy for Caden for winning.
Yes, you're. For those of us who weren't on the mic at the time, we were speechless anyway. So, yeah, it was a great race. But I don't know if you'll have seen it on your screen, but you were right up there with the very fastest. And you and Daniel Morad were the two fastest drivers, faster than the top two actually on outright pace. So you can have that bragging rights for going into the Discord chat now.
Awesome. I'll make sure to tell Nico and Caden that if I was close enough, trust me, I would have passed them anyways.
Maybe don't tell Nico. He's probably a little bit sore right now after losing that race by 0.02 of a second. Now, we're off to Sebring next week. Is that a track that you enjoy?
I love Sebring. I think it's a great track. I haven't raced, I can't recall how many races I've done there with GTE, so I'll have to definitely do some practice. I've done a lot of races there with GT3, the 12 hours and stuff like that, or IMSA racing. So it'll be fun to get back up to grips with Sebring again. It's a great track. It's a flowy track. So I'm hoping I'll be, in contention again like I was this week, and hoping I get some more money into my pocket.
Quite right. You're going home with $80 tonight, so not a bad night's work. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I have a lot of people watching. I mean, first and foremost, I have my stream. The guys in the chat are unreal. They've been cheering me on through the race, spamming those GOAT emotes in my chat. But yeah, I have some family members watching. Got Danny and Britt watching, and Anthony and Matt. So thanks for watching, guys. And as always, thank you guys so much for commentating. You guys always do a great job, and you guys make the races fun to watch back and hear you guys call the race. So thank you so much. If you guys can, simple plug, follow me at @just_famous on Twitch to tune in side-by-side broadcast of you guys on YouTube and my stream as well. So thanks again, guys.
No, thanks for coming up, and hopefully we'll speak to you next week after the race at Sebring.
Hopefully a win, but yeah, of course. See you guys then.
Thank you.
Was our third place finisher in the GTE. Sam, meanwhile, has caught up with our final podium finisher on the GT4 class, Phil Schrader.
Hey, how are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing great, Phil. I'm sure you are too. 13th fastest in practice, 6th fastest in qualifying, and yet here you are coming home with a podium.
Yeah, it was a surprise, really. I mean, struggled in practice and then qualified decent, so get out of that little mess at the start and then just settled into a good pace.
Yeah, I was just going back and watching the replay of your race, though, where someone gave you a nasty bump heading into the inner loop on lap 6 or so. Was that affecting your car?
It didn't feel like it. I definitely felt it. I think it was a lap car that was probably faster than me at the time, and was just trying to stay ahead and just keep up with the other top guys. So didn't feel like it affected me at all, though.
Right, so like you say, a bit of a surprise to come out with third place, at least for you. You say that, but it's a great start, a great momentum builder for the rest of the season. What are your expectations for the upcoming rounds, and what are your goals? You can't hear you, Phil.
We might have a problem with Phil's microphone here.
Okay. Unable to hear Phil Schrader right now, but I guess that means he has no expectations, Joe, and it's going to take as it comes, and we're going to have a great champion.
Yeah, sad that that one ended a little bit earlier than we would have liked, but hopefully we'll get to talk to him some more. And well, we're going to close things out here from our first round with a big thank you to our promoter, once again, Racing Edge. If you want to find them and check out to see if you can get a awesome racing car of your own, they're at racingedge.com. And their social media we've been displaying on the screen throughout the broadcast. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. We've got those listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Milan, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Sam, Peter, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media, where our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store linked below. It's gsrc.storeenvy.com. And while you're there, if you see the big red button that says subscribe, click that so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we've been saying, we're going to head over to another track here in Florida, Sebring. That'll be Tuesday, a week from now, June 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.